I first crossed paths with Daniel during a time when I was still trying to figure out who I was. I was young and sure of myself, a little reckless, and easily swayed. Yet even in those early moments, something about him stood apart. He didn't declare his affection with grand gestures. His love was steady, almost quiet, like a warmth you don't know you've been missing until it wraps around you. With him, life felt softer, safer. We married young and moved into a cramped apartment that groaned with imperfections. Still, we made it ours, filled it with whispered dreams under the covers. Conversations that stretched long into the night, and small joys that made ordinary days feel special. Slowly, though, and without warning, I began to drift away. There wasn't one argument or a specific turning point, just a subtle unraveling that slipped between our hellos and goodbyes. I started to feel like a shadow of myself, dissolving into the rhythm of our routines. And instead of opening up to Daniel, instead of asking him to see me more clearly, I turned my gaze outward. I sought validation in glances from strangers, in compliments that lingered longer than they should. What began as a fleeting temptation quickly spiraled into something I couldn't control. It wasn't romance. It wasn't even connection. It was a blur of meaningless encounters, names I forgot before they even left, faces that never mattered. What I chased wasn't love, it was the illusion of being wanted, the temporary high of feeling seen, powerful, and alive. I convinced myself I had reasons, that Daniel had become distant, that our love had faded, that I deserved something more. But those were lies, ones I whispered to myself, so I wouldn't have to face what I was doing. The truth, I was lost. Instead of finding my way, I buried myself deeper in deception. I took Daniel's trust, the purest thing I'd ever known, and treated it like a shield, something to hide behind while I made a mess of us. When I finally came clean, long after it was over, I thought the worst had passed. I told him everything, hoping my honesty would count for something. But Daniel didn't scream. He didn't rage or throw things, just sat there, unmoving, his face hollow like someone watching their entire world quietly collapse. Then, without saying a word, he walked into our bedroom, packed a single bag, and left. The sound of that door closing was the softest thing I've ever heard, but somehow it echoed louder than anything I've known. And just like that, he was gone. No messages, no responses, just silence. Months passed. The only thing I received was a document from his lawyer. He wanted our marriage dissolved. No talks, no closure, no attempts to salvage what we once were, only separation. I tried everything. I poured my heart into letters filled with regret. Called, emailed, reached out to mutual friends, hoping for a chance to explain or at least to apologize in person. But there was nothing. He had vanished so completely that it felt like I had never existed at all. And honestly, I couldn't blame him. I had taken something sacred and broken it. Not just his trust, but the very foundation of the love we had built. I tried to put myself back together. I got a job. I sought therapy. I spent time volunteering with women who had also lost themselves in all the wrong places. I tried to live differently, to carry purpose in the spaces where guilt used to live. But underneath all that change was a quiet hope, a silent prayer that one day Daniel might look my way again, that he'd see the person I was trying to become. Not to win him back, but just to be seen again. Acknowledge that I had grown. I wasn't that selfish, impulsive girl anymore. Then one ordinary afternoon, I spotted him in a bookstore. He looked older, more sure of himself. His features had sharpened with time, his posture confident and calm. Peaceful. Happier, maybe. I softly said his name. He turned, gave me a polite look, blank and unreadable. Then he said, "Do I know you?" Just like that, like I was no one. Not the woman he once promised forever to, not even a regret. Just a stranger. I hadn't been expecting some emotional reunion, but I'd never imagined being erased so completely. Still, I spoke. Fumbled through the words I'd practiced 100 times. I told him I still loved him, that despite everything, the feelings I'd once had were real. That what I did was unforgivable, but my heart had been honest. He listened quietly, no change in his expression. Then he looked me in the eye and said, "You loved the way I made you feel, but you didn't love me." And with that, he turned and walked away. That moment didn't break me in one blow. It settled into my chest like ash. Slow, suffocating. I haven't seen him since. But he visits my thoughts more often than I'd like to admit. Sometimes in dreams where I hear his laugh or feel the familiar weight of his hand finding mine without a glance. And then I wake up to silence, to the realization of what I had and what I ruined. I wonder if I ever really understood love back then. Maybe if I had, I would have treasured it instead of treating it like something disposable. Maybe I gave him everything I had, but what I had was hollow, and it was never enough. These days, my life is simple. I work. I help others. I keep trying to be someone better, but nothing erases the past. Nothing rewrites the hurt I caused or the heart I shattered. And the hardest part, it isn't the guilt or the loneliness. It's the truth that in Daniel's world, I no longer exist. Not as a memory, not as a mistake, not even as a scar. Just gone. Maybe that's what I deserve. They say time heals, but that's not always true. Sometimes time just makes room for the regret to settle in deeper. And I carry mine with me, quietly. Every time I see an old couple laughing or holding hands, I think of him of what we could have been. And I ache. Because somewhere out there, Daniel is living a life that no longer has space for me. And I am here holding on to a love that has long since let go.